Eat thy bread with joy, and drink thy wine with a merry heart, for God now accepts thy works. Isaiah 55:1. Everyone who thirsts, come to the waters, and he who has no money, come buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk. Amos 9:14. I will bring again the captivity of my people of Israel, and they shall plant vineyards and drink the wine thereof. And finally, Deuteronomy 14:25-26. You shall turn it into money, and go to the place which the Lord your God chooses, and spend the money for whatever you desire, oxen or sheep, or wine or strong drink, whatever your appetite craves." Unquote. One can easily see from these verses that the following comment by the apologist Morrison Clark, and this is on page 225 of their book entitled "The Bible Has the Answer," you can easily see that this remark is totally false and flies in the face of what we just read. Quote, "It is significant that nowhere does the Bible actually endorse the drinking of wine or other intoxicating drinks. On the contrary, there are numerous warnings against it." Unquote. To prove their point, the authors compound this nonsense by making the mistake of quoting Ephesians 5:18, which says, quote, "Be not drunk with wine, wherein is excess, but be filled with the Spirit." Unquote. They fail to note that this verse doesn't condemn drinking, but only condemns being drunk. And finally, there are verses that support drinking, but with less strength. Prime examples are Judges 9:13. "The vine said to them, Should I leave my wine, which cheers God and man?" Wine cheers God. Deuteronomy 7:13. "He will love you, bless you. He will also bless your grain and your wine." Numbers 28:7. "In the holy place shalt thou cause the strong wine to be poured to the Lord for a drink offering." Genesis 14:18. "Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God." Notice how wine is blessed and used by priests in religious ceremonies. It can't be all that bad. Ecclesiastes 5:18. "Behold, that which I have seen, it is good and comely for one to eat and to drink." Psalm 104:15. "Wine that makes glad the heart of man." Zechariah 9:17. "Corn shall make the young men cheerful, and new wine the maids." And finally, 1 Timothy 3:8. "Likewise must the deacons be grave, not double-tongued, but given to much wine." Unquote. Judging from all the above, one can easily see that the Bible simultaneously condemns and condones the drinking of alcoholic beverages. Biblicist have always had difficulty with this subject, not only because many verses support drinking, but also because of what Jesus did himself. Everyone knows that Jesus changed water into wine, and believers are hard-pressed to justify this act. The common apologetic defense has been that the water wasn't changed into wine, but it was only changed into unfermented grape juice. Fortunately, there are fundamentalists who are willing to admit that this explanation won't hold water, if you'll pardon the pun. One of these, David O'Brien, was asked the following question. If the Bible teaches that drinking is a sin, why did Jesus turn water into wine, and why did Paul tell Timothy to drink wine for his stomach. On page 365 of his work entitled Today's Handbook for Solving Bible Difficulties, O'Brien responded to this by saying, quote, "I've read all the arguments about unfermented grape juice and how fermentation doesn't take place naturally in the climate of Palestine. And I have to tell you, they're based more on wishful thinking than on linguistic study or scientific understanding. Jesus turned the water into real wine. I know this makes some believers nervous." This is O'Brien still speaking. "I know it even makes some hostile. How can I counsel alcoholics not to drink if you're telling them drinking isn't a sin?" they ask me. I wish the Bible did teach that drinking is a sin, but it doesn't. It contains numerous warnings against the abuse of alcohol, but nowhere does it say it's a sin. And we are not free to make the Bible say what it doesn't say just to make our decisions easier. For me, there's a very profound principle at work here." Unquote. Now on the next page, he lays down his very important principle, which is his 37th. Quote, "Don't bend and twist the meaning of the biblical text to avoid an unpleasant conclusion." Boy, how I wish biblicist would follow that principle. If we convolute the meaning of a text to avoid a conclusion that we find unpleasant, we might as well give up the idea of the Bible having the doctrine of inerrancy. If we reject the clear meaning for an interpretation that is more palatable, that is more digestible, we render such a doctrine irrelevant. We have good reason, of course, for our strong feelings about alcohol. In our day, alcohol is used as a means to an end. The societal pressure to drink to excess is monumental. Christians in my situation have an even stronger reason for avoiding alcohol. I'm the son of an alcoholic. But despite all this, the Bible does not say that the drinking of alcohol is a sin. Did the overseer at the banquet think mere grape juice would dull the wedding guests' taste buds? Did Paul warn against the overindulgence of grape juice? This is Ephesians 5:18. Did Noah drink too much grape juice? Genesis 9:21. Is grape juice a mocker? Proverbs 20:1. Did Jeremiah liken himself to a man overtaken by grape juice? Jeremiah 23:9. Unquote O'Brien. How's that for an honest analysis that rarely comes from the fundamentalist community? That's about as good a summary of this problem as one could devise. When the biblical text said wine, it meant wine, not grape juice. Based upon all the verses cited, we can see that the Bible's teachings on the consumption of alcohol are inconsistent and contradictory. Our oft-quoted remark that you can prove anything you want from the Bible is borne out by this subject as well as any. In fact, better than most.